Hello and welcome. If you are new here, I'm Taylor. I'm the host of the Dive podcast. I'm also a musical theatre performer and I've been in the industry for over 10 years. Alongside that, I'm also a yoga and dance teacher, and I'm the creator and founder of The Dive, which is the fastest growing support platform for musical theatre artists, both emerging and professional. Join us for conversations on mindset, behind the scenes stories of professionals in the industry, and how you can navigate the challenges that we face as artists. Once a week, you'll have a professional guest come on the show who we will interview. And every second week, you'll have me as your podcast host, where I'll be coming on and sharing with you practical exercises and resources to help you on your way to becoming a professional in the industry. Hey, welcome back to the Dive podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. Today's episode is a little bit different, as I wanted to share with you a webinar interview that I did with one of my greatest long-term friends, Thalia Burt. She has built an incredible platform called Bulletproof, and she's a personal trainer, she's a resident choreographer, she's all of the amazing things when it comes to looking after your body. And when I was asked to actually come onto her platform, I actually trained with her platform Bulletproof, and we basically connected and came on a live webinar with her community. And Thalia came on and asked me questions about auditions, nerves, how to combat the nerves in the audition, the do's and don'ts of auditioning, and you gain a little bit more insight into my own story with auditioning and a little bit more insight into what that means for you. So I hope you enjoy the episode. It is a juicy one, so if you have a pen and paper, definitely get that out, because there's a lot of great insights. Sometimes I don't even know where they come from. So you'll want to make sure that you have some time to go through it and see how it resonates with you. As always, have the best time, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
I'm really excited about this conversation today, because Taylor, I'll let him introduce himself to you in a second, but Taylor and I go so way back in our journey, if you will, together. And he's put together an incredible community that I really think is going to help you, and you're going to find value in it. And just the information that he's going to be able to share with you today about stuff that stresses us out, like that audition world, right? It's so incredibly stressful sometimes. So learning how to navigate that and have some tools, tips, and tricks to, check in with the old noggin and make sure that the mentals are in the right place with all of it. So without further ado, my cute little Tay-Tay, thank you for being here. Let's jump straight in. I want you to tell everyone a little bit about who you are, where you started, what your career is currently looking like. Ready, set, go.
Boom. Oh, so good. Well, thank you so much for holding the space for everyone. What you have built, we were just talking then, I've really watched and supported Thalia from the ground up of what she's been creating. So everyone that's inside Bulletproof, or everything that she is about, she is literally the top of her game of what she's talking about. So you're so lucky to be involved with. But yes, my name is Taylor Scanlan. I'm an Australian, if you haven't picked up on the accent yet. And I have been in musical theatre for over 10 years now. And I trained in Melbourne, Australia for about 6 years, specifically in dance, actually not in musical theatre. I was the person literally in the back when it got to musical theatre class going, are you kidding me? Who wants to be involved with that bullshit, basically? Excuse my French. Like, I just thought it was so boring. I'm like, oh, why would you want to do that? And then I was actually convinced to rock up to a Cats audition, and it was all dance. So I got into the industry, not by mistake, but really just like tricked into it. And then I fell in love with it, and I saw what it really was, and the community and the money, because I was very not earning a lot of money, wanting to be a contemporary dancer. So I was like, oh, okay, I could make a life out of this. And so I've been doing that for the past 10 years. I met Thalia with Cats the Musical. Together, we've probably done it. I don't even know how many times, how many shows. Too many times. And it's just been a really, really fun ride. And of course, there's been many ups and downs and many things to navigate, but in whole, it's just been really cool to be super open to more possibilities and see where life takes you, because you just never know. And actually, it was the point in my life when I was starting out where I was feeling that the best direction was to pigeonhole and just to be like, no, I want to be this sort of thing, thinking that it would help. but it actually limited all the opportunities that were surrounding me. So now I'm just like wide open to what's coming around.
Which is actually hilarious because your Cats experience, I mean, for those of you that have either done Cats, if you're watching this, or you've seen Cats, you know how wild and wonderful and versatile everything with regards to Cats is. So if you were trying to pigeonhole yourself, you said yes to the wrong job, right? We started out, we were both swings on it? No, we were,
yes,
we did twin stuff. I can't remember. I flew in and replaced someone in the show because I'd done it previously, and we connected. We were the twins on Cats. And then thereafter, you went on to doing swing work, and then assistant dance captain, and then dance captain. And then you were my dance captain when I was residenting it in 2020. So wild and wonderful. I want you to share with everyone about your process of going from ensemble to ADC, DC, and then all of the work that you're currently doing now. How did that kind of happen for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I actually was an ensemble member first for La Cage aux Folles, which was kind of a short run here in Melbourne. It was only like 6 weeks. So that was like the first step into musicals that I got at the end of my first year of training. We just call it training. I think it's like college or whatever over in the UK. And then it was my second year that I went and did Cats, and I was in the ensemble. So I was just covering a few people, but not ADC or DC. And it was actually straight after that, I actually did a side little note of Matthew Bourne show when he came here and did a Lord of the Flies. So I did that gave my contemporary heart out on that. And then I went back to Cats, and I actually was asked to be dance captain for that run. So I've actually done a few things where I've been dance captain. I was dance captain of Cats for I think 2 or 3 tours. And then I actually played like a minor lead in a show in Australia. In Charlie and Chocolate Factory. I was Mike TV, hilarious. And then I actually went and did Mary Poppins just recently, and I was the assistant dance captain to a DC. And then now currently I'm assistant dance captain again for Sunset Boulevard over here in Australia. And how that kind of progression, I guess, has happened is when I started to become more of a swing, that was definitely something that I really, really love to do. And if you've ever had an experience or get an experience being a swing, where if you go back to doing one role, it's either like something that you really, really want or something that you really don't want. I always say that if you're figuring out whether you want to be a swing or not, you'll know very quickly if it's for you or not, for sure. 100%. But it was definitely something that was a yes for me. And that was just kind of in bonus with dance captain duties, because I don't know if it's different over in the UK, but in Australia, a lot of the time the dance captain is one of the swings.
Yeah, it's hard to be a DC if you're at the show because, you don't see you're like, this is so mess and I'm just going to live in it. So I want to dive into the audition process, and I want you to chat about The Dive, which is Taylor's company that he's running at the moment, and how those two things link together. I don't know how many of you saw the social media content that I posted about yesterday and like a little link to his page, but Tay has created this incredible community for performers and really just about supporting them, right? In all avenues of the industry that result to mental health, audition prep, making sure that you are like on top of your game mentally, physically, emotionally.
That's it.
I want to know about exactly what it is that you guys do. And then we're going to dive into some like tools, tips, and tricks and how to make sure auditions are feeling solid mentally.
Great. So I created a company called The Dive, and it started out from a want and need for a lack of support, mainly mentally, but also emotionally and energetically as an industry. We kind of lost out on a lot of connection and a lot of community. And so I created a platform that was based around that. It started with a podcast, which I still run every single week. The company actually only launched this year, so it's very new. It's a little baby, but we have a podcast that comes out every single week on a Monday where I interview professional performing artists. We discuss their stories, and it's all about how they've navigated the industry as a professional as well. And now into season 2 of the podcast, I now do it kind of bi-weekly where I share coaching tips on things that maybe I'll share today as well. And then every second week, I have a special guest on. It's been streamed over like 5,000 episodes and all that kind of stuff, which is wild to me. But that's kind of like one avenue where it started. And now as a company, we're building out programs to help you with audition prep. We're putting together like an audition academy to give performers more opportunity to get in front of industry-led panels and actually get feedback on mock auditions and things like that, and really just bringing a community together and providing you with a space to not only feel like you're a part of something greater, but actually to be a part of something where you can feel good and rock up to auditions with energy and excitement and actually start living an amazing musical theatre life that you ultimately want to have without all the stress and all the BS that comes with it.
I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in the UK in particular, a big thing at the moment is not actually enough auditions to go around for the demand of people that are trying to get seen, right? Getting into the room
Yes.
is a nightmare. Like trying to get seen, trying to get an audition, trying to like navigate this audition world where they're not happening consistently. So you can go 1 or 2 auditions one week, all of a sudden go like 4 to 5 weeks and you've had nothing. So those nerves continue to build up. Those nerves are forever like churning. Every time you step into an audition room, it's like, oh, holy crap, I'm back in the audition room, and it doesn't feel normal and natural to you. So I want to know your opinion, with auditions being as daunting as they are already, what is the best way that you can calm your nerves and stand your ground in an audition if they're not something that you're used to?
Yes, I'm going to agree with you, because in Australia, it's very much so as well. We either have like a big stint of auditions and then it's just like a dry period for like 4 months or something. And we're all like, cool, just waiting around. And then the second thing I'll say, direct off what the question you asked. So a practical exercise you can definitely do is, it's a bit of both. What I teach is basically we all need to get really specific. You need to be specific on really what you're wanting out of an audition. So if you're wanting grounding, you've got to be like specific on like, what do you want to feel ultimately at the end of the day? If you want to feel centered, if you want to feel calm, then you need to specifically write out that, because sometimes we make things really vague. Like, oh, I want to go in and do well. What does doing well mean to you? What does feeling centered mean to you? Because you can find a pinpoint in the back of your life or on the progression of your road that you've had that experience. So if you can connect to that, you're much more likely to be able to implement it in the room, as opposed to just, oh, let's see what happens. And you just go in and end up having like, oh, you're not really aware, or you're not centered. Right. So that's like kind of
Can I pause you on that, Tay? Can you give me an example of what that would look like? So say, for instance, you had stepped into an audition recently and you are trying to find that sense of calm, groundedness.
Yeah.
Something that is specific to you. Can you give an example of what that would be and what that would look like?
Yeah. Well, an actual technique or a strategy that you could use is definitely your breath. So I always use this. It's very, very simple. It doesn't even have to be a counter breath. The basic science of breath, if you've not worked with your breath before, is the more you exhale than you inhale, your body will start to calm down, because you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. It's when you're at home, you're chilling out, there's no danger in your surroundings, basically. And so what happens when we go into auditions, what's our breath doing? It's
up there.
It's really short, sharp, and up here. So that's activating our sympathetic nervous system. So what we want to do is, even though our bodies are in this stressful environment, it's not about getting rid of the stress. It's actually, how can you live in the stress, be aware of it, and regulate it to a place where it doesn't overwhelm you. So a really cool tool to use that is, you can either do a short inhale for 4 counts in, 2, 3, 4, a light pause, and then you can exhale for 6 or exhale for 8. It doesn't really matter what count you do. All that matters is that you can start exhaling a little bit longer than you inhale, for maybe like 4 to 5 rounds. Sometimes 3 rounds does it for me. This is an immediate tool that you can use that your body will recognize and start to activate that. Your blood and your heart may be still pumping, but you will feel a kind of like a rush of calm. If you maybe touch your hands, you notice something in the room, you'll become a lot more centered, for sure.
Okay, so it's all about the exhale. Exhale more important.
Yes.
Inhale. Okay.
Exhale. Yes.
You were. Please continue.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I guess, well, what I was saying back just before about getting really specific, if you're going into an audition and you are stressed, first of all, acknowledge it, and acknowledge that we have 2 frame of minds. So what I mean by that is, you get to decide ultimately if you go in there with a positive mindset or a negative one. So sometimes our body's just trying to protect us. Our brain is always trying to protect us, no matter what. So if a bad experience once happened before, it's just like when we were younger and put our hand on fire, we don't do it again, because oh, that wasn't a good experience. The same thing happens if you go in and you got cut. Immediately go into the next audition and go, oh, what happens if I get cut again? And so it's just trying to protect you and showing you signs of potential danger that wants to keep you safe. But we've got to move through this. And how do we do that? is we just start by implementing like a best case scenario. Start writing out really before. It can be a week before, a day before, just before. It can even be just thinking. But if you write it out, it really just brings you deeper into the present moment of exactly what you want to have happen. Well, how do you want it to go? How do you want to feel? And I just train people. It's not about being 99% happy and everything's great. It's not about that. Just get to 51%. All you need to do is just tip that scale to like 51% out of like the 50 and 50 to make a lasting change. And what I challenge you to do is, if you're someone that really struggles with that, just ask yourself, is it better to go in being really negative, being really down on yourself and not getting in? Or is it better to go in positive, have a good experience, reflect honestly, and still not get in? You know what I mean? Like longevity wise, the bigger picture, we're looking for wellness and we're looking for compassion and to look after ourselves and get ourselves into a space where we can not only take direction, but we can take what we learned, reflect on it positively, and take all that experience and move forward. But when we're in that negative space and then that space that is always trying to pull us back, which is actually a normal thing, it's our body literally trying to protect us. We do the opposite so that you can just start to build that 51%. And I promise you, each time you go in with that mindset, it just gets better and better and you learn a lot more. So yeah.
Sure. Small little choices, I guess, every single time that you go.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you always been confident in auditions? Has this been, did you just like pop out?
No,
you're like,
no. Oh my gosh. Now I have a lot of fun. Because I don't take myself too seriously. And no one's born with confidence. No one here rocked up born confident in anything. Confidence is actually taught. Just something I learned, I think, last year. But no, I wasn't always confident in auditions. And it's just like anything new. If you're new to auditioning, it's going to be scary as hell. You're going to be nervous. You don't know what's going to happen. It's a lot. So over time, you just get that confidence up by coming back and showing yourself, for example, just a side note here, if you've done a bad audition and then you've not done any work to improve that specific part of the audition and you go to the next audition, you're going to feel the exact same. But if you don't do well in an audition and you go, maybe that was the dancing I need to work on, and then you go get privates, or then you work on your dance training, and then you go back to the audition and you do a little bit better, by showing up each time and moving forward, you're actually building confidence in yourself because you're actually showing yourself, or reassuring yourself that no matter what, at least you're showing up and doing the work and you're progressing forward, if that makes sense.
I think there's always room for reflection and like a little bit of, I don't want to say self-critique because sometimes critique can come across quite a negative connotation, but reflection and an understanding of how did I really do, right? Sometimes we go into, and I know quite a few people who, and I used to be this way, where I would leave an audition room and always think everyone was out to get me. I didn't get it because they sabotaged me and I didn't get a fair shot and that girl stood in front of me and like rage, fury. What do I need to work on? What is the reflection that I can start to put in place so that I can take those positive steps moving forward? Do you think that post-audition reflection is really important? And how do you make reflection constructive?
It is the most important part of the whole audition process because it's the only thing you have control over. And reflection to me is just like gospel. It's the fastest way to improve. And by implementing that, it could just be simple like this. Afterwards, for example, I just did an audition maybe a month ago. Afterwards, I would usually maybe get an Uber and go straight home and I don't know, collapse on the couch like death. But this time I was like, it's a nice day out. I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to walk maybe halfway home, which was like 15 minutes or so. I get it if you're dead and you need to just go where you need to go. But, taking just a moment, even if it's 5 minutes, I just walked home, no music, just thinking about, okay, how that went. And then when I got home, I actually write out what went well and what went bad. Maybe not went bad, but you'll actually be surprised at how many good things that actually went well. And I thought, in that time that the 2 or 3 things that went wrong, that's all you think about. And you're like, oh my gosh, but this. But then if you go and ask yourself, actually, what went well? A lot of the time they outweigh what went bad. We
always fixate on the negative for sure. It's really important to reflect on the positive just as much. Okay, so chat to me about do's and don'ts in an audition room. I take it, and have you been on a panel before where you're casting for a show or where you're assisting in a room? Obviously, when you get to be in that position, it's so interesting how
Yeah.
you all of a sudden on the other side, the pressure is off and you're able to just learn so much. What, in your opinion, are do's and don'ts in an audition room, things that we need to make sure we are channeling? What stands out? I want to know, so definitely make sure you own this and definitely make sure you steer away from this. What are yours?
So by having that other experience, my whole world kind of changed, because ultimately all the panel are looking for is the real you and for you to do the best that you can. And they actually want you to do really, really well. And they want to support you in any way to make sure that can happen, because they want the best people to be a part of their show. And the best piece of advice that I got as someone that is auditioning is don't go in there with like, what can I prove? But go in there with a mindset of, how can I help? How can I, as an artist, help this production? So that's like once, if I'm on the other side, like going in, okay, I've got this tool, I can bring this dance quality to this production, I can sing this, I can act in this way, I can use that ability to support you as a business, as a production that they're putting together. And that mental shift is really great, because instead of you going in going, oh, I've got to prove this. And because when you start doing that, you start becoming inauthentic. And that's another thing, that the main thing I basically got from being on the other side of the panel and learning about what they're really looking for is authenticity. Too many of us go in there singing a song that we heard someone else sing really well, and we look up on Google like, oh, what are tenors, or what does someone sing? And you see that they do it really well, and then you sing it just like them, or you act it just like them, and you maybe go in and don't do really well. And you're like, wait, like, what do you mean? And it's because you're not you. And that's all they're looking for. I mean, of course, they're looking for a level of skill in those areas, which I'm sure you all have. But the more you can have your material and the way you present yourself as most authentic to you, you are not only going to give yourself the best foot forward, but you're going to be able to showcase you better than anyone else there, because no one else can do you, basically, at the end of the day. So that was like a massive shift, because when you're starting out, you just want a job and you'll do anything to get it right. You will like dye your hair, wear the same thing. Oh, they're wearing a crop top, so I'm going to wear a crop, like all this stuff. But no, like you really just got to start figuring out what you is. And that just happens over time. And the easiest way to go into that is just by asking yourself, like, what makes me the most best version of me? What makes me so energetic? What makes me feel like when I'm in a room, my shoulders go back and I'm like, yes, this is me, you know? And that may take time, and that's fine, but it's all energy, baby. And that's what they're looking at, because someone who's not authentically them, your shoulders are going to be down. You're not going to be giving eye contact. It's just going to be a whole rumble down a mess. And I've had that experience personally when I've gone in and gone, if you want me to share that, I basically went into an audition because I was always a dancer first. You know, we put that label on. I'm just, I was a dancer, singer, actor, whatever. Now equal. And then I went in basically, and I was going for a minor supporting role, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've only ever done swing dance roles. So I went in there with just a mindset of like, I'm not this person. I don't know how this is going to work out. And of course I went in there, fumbled all my lines. I couldn't sing correctly, and I left, and it was the most embarrassing thing ever. And the lesson in there was that I just wasn't authentically myself. If I went in there and was like, you know what, I'm not the best at this, but I'm going to give it my version, I would have had the best time, and I probably would have got cast in it. You know what I mean? So that big lesson of authenticity. Yeah, I think just go in there with laser focus and going, this is mine, baby. Like literally just go in there with an open heart, energy of just like, how can I help? Because don't is by sectioning yourself off, not being open to the experience, not actually increasing the stress that's already there by pressure. Like, don't give yourself more pressure, which could be an example of, if I don't get this, like you maybe ask yourself, if you don't get in, what's going to happen? You're just going to go back to training, you're going to go back to that. Like in the bigger scheme of things, nothing is actually going to go wrong. You know, and if you stuff up, you'll learn from it and move forward. Like we just put so much pressure on this one thing, and if I don't get this, then it means so and so and so. Know that no one is putting that label on it but you, and you get to shift it. You can just be like, how about we're going to go try for this? I've been training for it. Let's give it my best shot. And you know what? Out of the podcast that I've been interviewing people on, which are some lead roles, different sort of people. They've said all the main auditions or things they've got into are a lot of the time the ones that they don't really care much about.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
like so chill. They're like, oh yeah, I did my work, and because
Yeah.
of their energy. They're not in there like, okay, I really need this. I have to get this. Like, it's such a desperate energy, and it reads in a room really easily.
Wow. I want to touch on, so going into a room and being like, I'm just a dancer. I'm not this person. I'm not a singer. I'm not or on the flip side, you could be a singer actor predominantly who is really, really not great for dance. But you go into a room and all of a sudden, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Self-belief, all of that stuff starts to come up for you, which are those beautiful, wild, and wonderful buzzwords that we hear all the time. How do you combat that? Like, how on earth do we feel what we're feeling, but still step into a room? I mean, I guess probably the answer is it comes back down to your breathing and your grounding. But if you know that I am not really confident in this, but I've got something else to offer, how do you make sure that you're stepping into a room and you're unapologetically being who you know you can be, even though the person is in your head you think is not good enough? Does that make sense? It's like such a vicious circle, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. And it is. I mean, if you were going to an audition tomorrow, I guess the advice would be you really just got to be with yourself and honor where you are, and look at everyone not in a place of, oh my God, they're so much better, there's no chance for me here. That's not helpful. Go into it with a place of, it's like we're on this timeline of our journey, and it's like this. It's like so many timelines. It's not just this one progression. We're not all on the same boat on this one progression. It looks like that because when we're in the audition, we're all there at once. But really, it's like we're all in there at different times of our journeys of, I had that private training and this and that. So we're just like a big mixed bunch of people, which is brilliant because there's no version of you than the next person, which I mentioned before. So I guess honoring that, and just, actually laughing about it, giving, if you have got 2 left feet, you just give it your best 2 left feet. And honestly, the panel will love it. But if you go in there with that, they're so good and oh my gosh, and defeat yourself already, you're not only going to have a terrible time, but you're not going to be shown as someone who can just give it a go. That's half the battle in MT. Who can come onto this show and have a good laugh? And a lot of the times in shows now, that not everyone has to dance at a level 10 or sing at a level 10. There's room for everyone in a lot of shows now. So know that that's there. And, if it's dancing specific, there are mover calls I think they have now as well. But yeah, that would be my advice. And then my second advice would be, is that everyone on this call, even myself included, right now knows what your need of improvement needs to be. And there's a level of which we are not, or maybe you are, there's a level right now of which you are not actually applying yourself to it. And we're waiting for someone to tell us to go and do it. But you know what you need to do. We just need to start implementing it so that when you get to the next audition, you don't have this story of, oh, I'm just so in this, I'm just so in that. So have a look at yourself now, have a look at what you can work on, and be kind with yourself in the process. Don't go do like 20 classes a week or something like that. Go, right, what's the one thing, maybe this is a question, what's the one thing you can do right now that would make everything easier or unnecessary? Like, what's one thing I can do right now to improve this to my dance? It could be to find a teacher, to find a space, and just start with that question and just work off the one thing. Don't get overwhelmed with, oh, now I need to be a part of a company, and like, because we always go into that, we want things really fast. We all want things right now. And the disappointing thing about that is that if you're building from a place of rushed energy, then you will get there and you will leave as quick as you've got there. So you want to start building from a place of, I'm just going to work with this one thing and we're going to get better 1% each day. You see how many days in a year? 365. Don't quote me on math. That's already like 300%. Oh my gosh, but we only just did 1% per day. Don't be discouraged by the 1% because it's so much more powerful than doing the 300% on one day, getting burnt out, binging on the weekend, and then being like, oh, it's really, and that's where all that balance comes in. Yes, that's what I would say.
That is so incredibly valuable. And funnily enough, I was having a conversation like this with one of my clients yesterday. We were talking about just choosing one thing. What one thing can you do on a daily basis even if you can just do it today and try and rinse and repeat tomorrow, that's 2 days that you weren't able to do 2 days ago, right? And channeling that 1% energy. Are you willing to be the 1%ers of the industry where you're not searching for that instant gratification? You're not searching for that self-actualization or that external validation, or you don't need a round of applause or a standing ovation to know that you're doing a good job. Yeah. It's by making those tiny little incremental journeys every single day, that little 1%, 0.1%. It's more than you did yesterday.
That's it.
Right. And oh my goodness, that is so incredibly valuable. And I want to kiss your forehead because of what you just said.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So I'm going to start to wrap things up because I always like to open up an opportunity for conversation. But in a nutshell, Tay, what is next for you? How can people get hold of you? And a little bit of valuable advice alongside all of the gorgeous other value that you have given us today. Anything at all?
Yes. So what's next for me? I'm going to Sydney to do the show that I'm currently doing, and then I'll have some time off. But then if you want to reach me on The Dive, we have a social media handle at thedive.com.au. I also have a website, www.thedive.com.au. Or if you want to reach my personal account on Instagram, it's just Taylor, Taylor, _Scanlan, Scanlan. And last words of wisdom, something that I guess I've been learning lately is that it's never about the goal. We always think it's about the thing, achieving the thing, getting the thing. But what it is actually about and what you're really looking for is how you will feel and who you will become when you're there. And all of that can be created in the now. What I mean, for example, being a musical theatre professional or a performer in the industry, ask yourself, who is that person? What are they feeling? Who are they surrounding themselves with? What are the daily actions would they be taking? And starting to build a life around that version of you. Because I've started to do this with just things in my life, and it's really crazy because it comes to you and you're just not surprised. You're like, oh, cool. Like a goal will come and you'll be like, nice. Because you're not shocked because you've become the person. And that's ultimately what you're looking for. You're not looking for the car or the recognition and stuff. You're looking for actually becoming that person that you're ultimately looking for. And you can start building that now, which is really, really exciting. That's what I would say.
Wow. Value. I love. Okay. Fantastic. Tay, thank you so much. If you want to be diving into
reach out.
Brilliance of the brain that is Taylor Scanlan, then you'll know exactly where to find him. Thank you all so much for being here today. Have a beautiful rest of your Thursday. Those of you that are going to auditions and callbacks and first rounds and last rounds, whatever you are doing, I wish you well, and I'm really proud of you, and keep reaching out and let us know if you need anything. Right. Lots of love, angels.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.